Kane Wagner. I am the host of the Appalachian ADV Community Podcast. And by the title, we are riding solo on this one. I don't have a guest today. I do these when I have a specific topic, generally around something specifically Appalachian ADV that I want to hash out. So this one today is, we're going to kind of go over the time that I became a professional motorcyclist, also known as the Appalachian ADV Job Description. So I broke this one down kind of into two overall sections with a bunch of stuff in between. So I kind of have like what I call the indirect income builders. So the things that I have to do that don't necessarily correlate to selling a registration to one of our events. And then the other one is, the direct money makers. Like what am I actually doing that's actually allowing me to continue this Appalachian ADV experiment moving forward. So, but before we jump into that, since some of you might be fun just for this episode, I was going to just do a quick little rehash, but you can definitely go out into the podcast, onto the website, and see other interviews from places that I've worked with, different YouTubers and whatnot. So I graduated high school back in 1995, went into the active duty Air Force, spent a few years down at Fort Meade, Maryland, working at the National Security Agency. So after I went active duty, I went to Europe for a while. My best friend who joined the Air Force with me out of high school, we were captains of the football team, joined the Air Force, and then he ended up in Italy. And he was playing for an American football league, actually based out of Austria, but there were some teams in northern Italy. So I went over there with him for a while and coached their junior team. It was like 14, 18-year-old kids, flag football. It kind of did more of a tournament style, soccer style. So did that for a little bit. My ex-wife was stationed in England. I stayed there for a little while, played with the British Baseball Federation actually for about 3/4 of a season before we came back to the States. On the way back here, I switched over to the Air Force Reserve, went into the medical laboratory field. The trifecta of the Air Force. I was in the Air National Guard for a while, and I actually retired as a lab officer with the Air Force Reserve out of Wright Pat. During that time, I was also coaching football. I did about 10 years of middle school football. I did a few triathlons, played personal trainer to a bunch of friends. On the civilian side of work, I was still working in a laboratory. Worked at Ohio State University Medical Center when we lived in Columbus. Became a supervisor there. Moved back to Youngstown when I became a manager, and it was miserable. So I was riding a V-Strom 650, which I didn't start doing that until I was in my 30s. I want to say it was like 32 or 34. Bought the V-Strom. Good friend of mine, Gabe, was riding a BMW GS, and he kind of talked me into it. He was like, "Hey, I found a bike for you." He would always give me these articles, and we would talk about motorcycles at work, and he found this V-Strom. We went and bought it. And the rest is history, as they say. Him and I did a bunch of long trips, did back of the Dragon, tail of the Dragon, did a bunch of dirt gravel road stuff, basically along where the MABDR would eventually be built. Did a bunch of riding in West Virginia, Ohio. Once I moved back up here, I started exploring Pennsylvania and Northeast Ohio a bit more, and found the Fool's Ride terrain, which is just south of me. I could get kind of the top of our adventure loops in about 20 minutes. My buddy Jim's place where we actually run that event is just a little bit over an hour for me to get to his place. But we have a significant amount of dirt and gravel roads, dual sport style riding up here in Northeast Ohio. Along the Ohio River Valley, that covers a few different counties. It's been a super fun event to run. So that's kind of the one that started them all. The first one we didn't call the Fool's Ride. It was kind of a COVID time, so we had to push it back, but that was the basis of the Fool's Ride, how it is today. But the first tour I did actually was a PA Wilds in 2020. Started doing Allegheny tour, and then started doing clinics, I think around 2022. Started with a level 1 for the first couple of years. Last year opened up a level 2. This coming year we're doing, both of those plus more private clinics and a level 3. So it's kind of like the quick summary. I dive a little deeper in other podcasts and other interviews with people. So if you want to learn a little bit more about that, jump on their website and you can find all that stuff there. So that's kind of the quick and dirty of how I got to the point I'm at now. it's been a long trek, building a community, building a business, and just trying to figure all that stuff out with no background of running a business before is kind of has been the challenge when I first started, and just getting my name out there a little bit. To some extent, I was trying to balance this staying under the radar, keeping it word of mouth, but also trying to get interest in people who've given us a shot. So I think last year, if you count events that I ran, level 1 and level 2 clinics plus private clinics, I actually did about 25 different events last year. Plus, I try to support other events in the area. So I went to, I think, maybe 5 other events, helped out in different ways at some of them. So it's a lot, and I love it doing it for sure. I still work per diem in a hospital, so I pick up a day here and there working as a bench tech, basically. If you get your blood drawn or pee in a cup, they send it to me and I tell them what's going on. So I still kind of do that a little bit. My wife works full time. But what I wanted to kind of dive a little deeper into with this one was a bit more of like just letting people have an idea of what it takes for me to actually, run 25 events in a year, events and clinics, I should say, I guess. This coming year, I don't have as many clinics. I'm trying to get more privates, but eventually that the number of things that I will be doing this year could potentially match that. I kind of set the basic schedule up to be a little bit less by adding 10 riders instead of 5 for our clinics and bringing on my buddy Tom McConnell as an assistant coach. So I'm able to do a little bit less dates, but still have the same amount of people kind of come out with us. So we'll see how that goes this year. But so these indirect things that I have to do to kind of make the events and the clinics work is where I wanted to kind of start. So I did mention I'm the owner of Appalachian ADV, official title Appalachian ADV Adventure and Dual Sport Motorbiking LLC. So I do try to cover adventure and dual sport. It is an LLC. I am, I guess, what you would call like a sole proprietor. So I'm the only official employee of the company. I have, a lot of people that help me. My wife, my mom, my son comes out and helps out with stuff. My cousin Jackie shows up. And then I have what I call the Appalachian ADV Inner Circle. It's a bunch of guys that have started with me at those first couple events. That kind of hung around and kept helping. And then I've picked up people as we've moved through the years too, for sure. So having that help definitely allows me to continue functioning and performing. I should say the volunteers we have at the events now too, as far as like helping the base camp crew out with, prepping food, serving, cleaning up, like those, all of those things help us make these events and clinics happen. So definitely without them, this doesn't work. But being the only employee of the company means everything that happens, I have to make happen. So as far as like my family helping with the bigger events like the Fool's Ride and the 2 tours that we currently do, and in the past, the Allegheny Jamboree, was basically around planning the food aspect of the events. So we try to make it family reunion vibe and having my family there, serving and making the food and, doing the home cooking is kind of a big draw for people, I believe. But that, what they're doing is helping with the food part. So all the other parts of the Fool's Ride stuff that happens, I have to at least coordinate or do myself. So we'll probably get into a bit of that a bit more. But going down, I kind of made a list just to kind of keep myself on track a little bit so I'm not blabbering too much. But the first thing I did when I started Appalachian ADV was get a website going. And I did that through Weebly. I use Weebly because I can then just design the website because it's a program built to make it easy for people that don't have like a website building background, which that's me. So I was able to use Weebly to kind of build my website, and anything that's on there, any changes that are made, any updates, building the event and clinic registrations, just the general design of the website, that is all me pointing and clicking and dragging things around and adding links and typing up the words that are in there. Information overload a little bit. I try to put as much information on the website as possible, so it does get a little wordy at times, but I feel like the more information I put out there, the better. People understand where I'm coming from. They know what I'm trying to accomplish. It maybe gains a little bit more interest. I just this morning before I jumped on here, I had to go on there and edit a little bit of websites. I got a new, one of my new, official sponsors of Appalachian ADV is my buddy Amsoil Scott, who you guys might know. He's been out to a bunch of stuff. He's been out in the ADV community a bunch, but he is an Amsoil dealer, and we've connected up, so he's going to be our official oil products guy. So I updated his little graphic this morning, and I had to go on there and add that in there. So it's whenever things come up, I'm the one that's got to go into the website and make the changes. The benefit of that is I can change things on a dime. I can do things quickly. I don't have to wait for some website developer to put it into their schedule to make the update, and then a couple weeks later it's out there. I can do it this morning, and it's available right now based off of what I need to do. So that's kind of the pro and con of that, I guess. So along with the website design, I also design our sporadic newsletter that heads out there. So building those is kind of the same as building a website. I kind of put it all in one, using Weebly for everything as far as website, newsletter, registration pages, all that stuff goes through Weebly. So having it all in one kind of made it easier for me. But I design those newsletters, the information that's in them. Sometimes I have to collaborate with people for the specific event, but I gather all the information, and I'm the one that's putting it out there on the newsletter. So those are called sporadic for a reason. Since I'm the guy doing them, I can't make it, or I really don't want to try to make it harder on myself by saying I'm going to put these out every week, every month, every quarter, every whatever time frame you want to put in there. It's called sporadic because whenever I got something to say, I'll take the time to put it in a newsletter and say it. So it's kind of random whenever those things will come out. This time of year, I have to give more information, so I put a little bit more of those newsletters out during the event off season, and probably a little bit less over the summer, but that's the whole point of calling it sporadic, right? So the other thing, which I mentioned, I work in a hospital still, so up until this winters in the past, and even throughout the summer, I was picking up. So I'll say in the event off season, in years past, I would still work maybe 2 to 4 days a week. On a rare occasion, I would do 5. On rare occasion, I would do 1, depending on what's going on. But during that event off season, I was almost working a lot, not quite full time, but pretty damn close to full time, plus doing all this stuff we're going to talk about today. And over the summer, depending on my event schedules, I would still work 1 to 2 or 3 days maybe at the most. So to make it all work, I'm still working a bunch of time in the hospital. This winter, the experiment is, let's just continue only working maybe 0 to 2 days a week, and we'll see how that works out. So it's given me more time to do some of this other stuff that I need to do to keep this business going. So that's kind of been nice. I just recently did the tire conundrum article. That was the first article I've done in quite a while. Writing articles for me takes a long time to gather all the information, put the thoughts down, do all the writing and editing, adding the photos, doing the captions. I'm the writer and editor, so I have to I put a lot of time and effort when I do those things. What I'm going to try to do this year is write a little bit more. I got a couple other thoughts and some articles I'm starting to, put some thoughts down for. And I've reached out to a couple friends that have been helping me with certain things at events, and, seeing if they're interested in writing some type of article that has to do with something that they bring to the table, or just general adventure community topics. So I'm going to try to bring in some guest writers where I can just play editor and throw it onto the website for them and try to get more involvement from the community, basically. So, now that I'm not working in hospital as much, I get a little bit more time to do that kind of stuff that helps draw attention to Appalachian ADV in general. So the other hat that I wear is the Appalachian ADV social media manager also. So if you see something posted directly from the social media accounts, so it's my Instagram, the Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, that's me putting it together. Sometimes I have, guys like Tom or other folks that will help me put some stuff together here and there, or I'll use their pictures, or, if you've been to an event, we have the photo dump at the end of the event where everybody puts in whatever photos they want to pin, and they can download them at the end. I will use those photos too as well. But generally speaking, I'm the photographer, videographer, and editor for all that social media content. Tom has been a godsend. Like, he's a professional photographer on top of being an excellent motorcyclist. So being able to grab some of his photos that he's taken along the way, and some of the other, like the PA Wilds documentary that he put together for me, and some of these other specific things that he's helped me with the Allegheny Tour and the Fools Ride and these other events. So trying, being able to grab some of his stuff too has been, super, super helpful. And then, yeah, you're listening to me now on this podcast. So the other thing is, luckily, it doesn't take a ton of work. That's kind of why I wanted to start the podcast. And generally, besides the one me and Tom just did recently for the 2026 riding clinics, they're all audio only. So that does make it easier in a certain way, makes it harder in another way when I'm doing the editing. But I'm the guy that runs the podcast too. So I try to book different guests. I do the research around the guests to try to like pre-plan a little bit how the discussion wants to go, get, communicating back and forth with whoever that guest is, and then hosting the thing, which is the fun part, is, getting a chance to actually sit down for that 30 to 90 minutes to chat back and forth with these folks. And then at the end of that, I'm the guy that's kind of putting it through the editor program, cutting it up and posting it out to Spotify. And now, we've been doing it on the YouTube channel as well. So that takes a lot of time and effort. Out of all of these things, that's probably been the funnest thing that I've added recently is, the podcast. Because up until the last couple years, if you've paid attention to my social media, to the website, to that kind of stuff, what I've really tried to push is the community, like the people that are coming to the thing, showing them having a good time. And of course, I put myself out there on occasion, but it was pretty rare up until maybe a year or so ago, as I've made connections with other media people and talking to Tom, and people want to know kind of the person behind Appalachian ADV. So I've been trying to put myself out there a bit more. And this podcast has helped with that for sure. Having these conversations with people, trying to highlight the thing that they're doing, the connection that we made, and then a little bit about what my take on, the Appalachian ADV angle of that is. It's been fun to kind of do that. So the other thing that kind of goes with all of those, I guess, is people send an email to Kane@AppalachianADV.com. They go to the Instagram, Kane.AppalachianADV, and they send a message. They go to the Facebook Messenger and send a message. They put a comment on a podcast or on the YouTube channel or something like that. I'm the guy that responds to all of those things. So when people have questions, if they want to know an aspect of something that Appalachian ADV is doing, they get to hear directly from me, the guy that's basically putting it all together. So I can kind of give my spiel. And, like some of the common questions like, hey, what tire, what gear, what kind of riding can I expect? I can kind of point them to a thing that we already have out there, like the FAQs or something like that. And I also have, since I get a lot of the similar questions, I might not have it directly in the FAQ, but I have a note that I will kind of copy, paste, and edit to customize to that person's question. Just so I don't have to keep rewriting the same stuff. But, that's time and effort that I have to put in to make sure I'm putting the right information out and getting people the information that they need to know about what we're doing, and to continually pique their interest in the coming back out. That's kind of the goal is, yes, I want you to come to a thing, but the long time goal is to make it a community and have you keep coming back to multiple things. So that customer service part is, it could be, some days I won't hear anything from anybody, and then some days I'll get, multiple emails or multiple communications where I have to kind of communicate back and forth. It's another reason why I don't necessarily have a business phone number. I'll throw that out there because people are always, we could just talk on a phone, it'd be easier. And truthfully, since I'm doing all of this stuff, and truthfully, it can be anywhere from just a couple hours to full day, like multiple hours of me doing stuff for Appalachian ADV 7 days a week. So there's not a day that goes by that I don't do something for Appalachian ADV, whether it's one of these indirect things or the direct event planning things. Like, it takes a lot of time for me to manage that. So that's why I really don't have a business phone. And I would rather people communicate with me through email or the messenger services, because then I don't have to respond at that second, even though I do try to do it as quick as possible. I can respond fairly quickly, but I can give a lot of detail that you're going to want to know. In an email, you can read that, and then, yes, maybe at some point we need to talk. Generally, I'll do that over a Zoom because I would rather do it face-to-face. Anyway, if we're going to talk, I'd rather talk in a face-to-face as opposed to on a phone. So that's kind of background on that part, I guess. So some of the other things I have to do is I have a bunch of collaborators, whether that's companies or YouTubers or other people running adventure dual sport style events or et cetera, I guess. Like all of those communications back and forth that I have to do to maintain those relationships, build upon those relationships. And, when I first started, I was really trying to add more and more and more. So I have no idea what the number is, but thousands of email communications that I initiated to try to gain interest from the retail people, the people in the adventure and dual sport community that are kind of building manufacturing products, trying to gain their interest in supporting the event. And my angle to that was always, okay, I have this platform of all these different events people are going to come to. Let me try to get as much free shit as I can to give to them. They're spending money and time to come to my thing. So my initial interest in gaining collaborators and sponsors was, what can I give back to the community that's coming out? That was always kind of the initial push. So it's kind of whoever showed interest, I would jump on. And sometimes those didn't always work the best as far as like the collaboration side of it. It was always great to get people free stuff. Like that's kind of always the goal, but sometimes it didn't work well. The jive of their mission and my mission maybe didn't quite align. So some of them faded away, but I would send out thousands of emails and get maybe out of 1,000 emails, I would maybe get 5 responses. And out of those 5 responses, maybe one of them would actually sign in. Yeah, we'll do something for you. But I think we've whittled it down to like, I think for the most part, the current collaborators and sponsors, if you go on the website, the big ones that are the most supportive, I have official things on them on each subpage. If you go to the events tab, you can see who's supported which event. Those have been like really great collaborations. Finding new ones here and there, which has been great. So the latest one has been that Grid Adventure tab. It's a hardy tab for sure. And I haven't really, since we're in the dead of winter here, I haven't had a chance to use it on the bike yet. But just being able to kind of play with it and get used to it, like I feel like it's going to be a great addition. And I think people will have a lot of interest in it. So I'm looking forward to, building that one up a little bit more. But all the other ones that we've had established for a while have been phenomenal, like as far as Griffin and OBR and all of those, companies out there that have been very supportive. Purple Lizard Maps, the BDR, of course, has been very supportive. I'm sure I'm missing. I wasn't specifically trying to name everybody, but go to the website. You'll definitely be able to see them all. I kind of mentioned other events and stuff that I've supported. So Wayland Wayne was a big one. Red River Scramble, Soggy Bottom, the 304 Detour, Hog Rock Adventure Rally. Chili Willy, I should mention too. Chili Willy down in North Carolina. A little bit further down for us is just like Hog Rock, but the people running those have become friends, and I wanted to try to support them as much as I could as well. But taking the time to go to the events, I build usually special discounts for door prizes. I lead rides at Wayland Wade. I'm doing a clinic. I've done a clinic in the past at 304, and I'm doing a new one again this coming year, and a clinic and a tour kind of a deal, and also a clinic and a group ride thing at Hog Rock. So, spending time doing those has been super fun to kind of build those relationships and maintain them. And that's the whole community aspect we've been trying to build lately for sure. So I mentioned like the Appalachian ADV Inner Circle and the people that volunteer specifically like around the food prep stuff. So coordinating all that that takes a little bit of time and effort to do those things. And to, for the volunteers in particular, after they volunteered for the event, we usually give specific discount based off of how many meals that they volunteered for. The Appalachian ADV Inner Circle have various discounts and things that we do to try to help offset their costs since they're helping me. Like, so coordinating those, I have to build those discount codes. I have to communicate with each of the people individually. The Inner Circle people, we have a group thing going on, so some of that can be done in a group thing, but it's spending that time giving them the detail of what I'm looking their help for, and then the detail of what the discount is. So that's all time and effort that I have to put in. None of this is me complaining. This is all just trying to explain the things that I have to do to make all of this stuff work. And specifically when it comes to the volunteers in the inner circle, I love the fact that they're interested in helping, and I try to like do as much as I can to like show that appreciation. So that one is a fun one to kind of do because it's people that are excited to help and they want to do the thing, or they want to come out and scout ride with me or lead a ride or sweep a ride or, help with the meal prep. Those are the things that help me make this happen. So I love the fact that there's people out there that are wanting to keep doing that. Since we're talking about support too, I guess I do help out a bunch of different nonprofits as well. So I mentioned BDR already. BDR, I was an ambassador for them before I started Appalachian ADV. A little spark in my brain that there was something that I can do. So I figured connecting up with the BDR would be helpful for them and it'd be helpful for me because then I can kind of see more so I can figure out how I can build something around the adventure and sport community. So their support over the years has been phenomenal. And, it goes back and forth. I've helped at the Cleveland IMS International Motorcycle shows that Progressive was putting on for a few years. I helped with a couple of those. And throughout the years, I've helped at dozens of BDR documentary premieres. As far as the company, like Appalachian ADV, we provide multiple events and clinics for their holiday auction to auction off. There's annual supporter program. We're a part of that. So if people sign up to be an annual supporter, you get 10% off one of our things. Like with the PA Wilds BDRX, I helped the wording around the section descriptions and some of the optional hard options. I kind of helped write some of those things. I helped reroute that route a little bit with the help of Josh from Kissel and Soggy Bottom Moto Fest fame. Helped kind of reroute that a little bit. So trying to bring other companies that I partner with also support the BDR, and just trying to, in general, figure out and help with the future planning of other BDRs in the region, like just trying to be more involved with that as well. So, and then they have in turn supported Appalachian ADV by putting us on the website as a training company and also as a tour company. And then with the new BDR military vet program, I was able to, I was invited on the board by Axe, the man behind the Mil Vet program. So I've been able to kind of get on the board and help, with that program a little bit, kind of build that new thing up. And then, they've listed my stuff on there as a veteran in their veteran BDR Mil Vet pages. I'm listed in there as a veteran organization that the vets can look at. So it's been a great collaboration with the BDR for sure. And then PAOHV, they've, I've had him on the podcast. I support them as an annual sponsor. The Ohio Off-Highway Motorcycle Association, which is newly formed. I've kind of been in some of the meetings and looking forward to trying to support that organization as well. Piney Rail Riders out of Pennsylvania. They are a nonprofit over there that I've been supporting. So just trying to find other organizations that are doing good work out there and trying to support them in some form or fashion. Like Backroads of Appalachia. Had Jed on the podcast recently and talked about him and the Overland Triangle that he's also a member of. So trying to highlight where I can, financially support where I can some of these other nonprofits out in that adventure tourism space that are, fighting for rights or helping gain access. The AMA, American Motorcycle Association, Appalachian ADV is a recreational charter for them. So just trying to build up the community. That's all part of the indirect income builders that I've been talking about. So, that BDR Mil Vet thing. So I also been running an Appalachian ADV American Legion fundraiser ADV rides over the last few years. So I'm the second vice commander of Post 565 here at a Boardman's American Legion post. So I've been doing a fundraiser ride for them the last few years, I should say. Just trying to highlight the American Legion in general, get people interested that are vets, that are eligible to be in the Legion to maybe join their local posts, try to bring people into my local post and just gain a little bit of funds that we can use. So our post basically donates that money back to places like the Boy Scouts of America, the local VA hospitals, as far as there's a couple that do specifically meals for veterans in need. So the money that we've gained through the fundraiser rides that I've done have gone to projects like that out in our local community, trying to, it's not motorcycle related where the funds are going, but that shouldn't matter. We're just trying to support veterans basically. and my platform is through Adventure Dual Sport Biking. So it's a fun event to go to. So hopefully we get, more and more support for that event as we go. So the other thing, which I'm doing right now, is actually my taxes. So I'm the bookkeeper. Every month for my sales license, I have to do a sales tax every month. And like this time of year, I'm doing the federal taxes too. So I kind of do all of that myself. I built multiple spreadsheets. I used TurboTax and some of those programs. And I basically am the guy that's plugging the numbers in, figuring out the stuff. Luckily through the tax program, I can reach out to professional tax people to get information, but I do all that stuff myself too. So that takes a phenomenal amount of time to do all the bookkeeping and the monthly sales tax and then the annual federal tax. It's a lot of time and effort. And it takes me, just for the sales tax, it's, got it down to a science. It only takes me maybe 15 minutes now, which is great. But those federal taxes each year, it's multiple days of multiple hours to kind of work through those things. So, I mean, the other things too is, a lot of these events, I have to rent things. Like for Fool's Ride, for a good example, we have to rent tables and chairs. We have to rent a big giant dumpster and multiple porta potties. And so I'm the one that has to contact all these companies and do all the rentals. I have to upkeep the bike. So I got to buy, I'm kind of a mechanic, but I'm not really, which is why my tenor at this point in time is actually sitting in Tom McConnell's garage in pieces as I'm having him help me do some of the more technical maintenance that I'm not as familiar with. But I do a lot of the general stuff myself. So I got to spend the time in the garage doing those. I got to order the parts. I got to, all of the equipment to do that maintenance and just general equipment. That's my time and effort I got to put in. And luckily I got guys like Tom that are willing to help me when I need it. And then, Street Track and Trail has been great about getting my bike fixed up whenever I don't have the time or the skills to do it myself or the patience. So, all the PPE, the first aid items, all the equipment that I need to keep my bike moving, keep people safe out on the rides, keep the events flowing. I'm coordinating all that stuff as well. Recently, or last winter, I should say, I was able to get my USMCA, which is US Motorcycle Coaching Association. I was able to get certified as a rider coach through them. And also I did a wilderness first aid certification through Survival Med. Those took multiple days, multiple hours each day, to kind of get those processes fulfilled. Those are all things that I need to do to kind of progress myself, keep myself in check, show people that I am in it to win it and that I'm trying to have fun, take chances, but also be safe. So going back to like the whole website, social media, like once I build the registration pages, I also put those out on multiple event calendars, different websites. So that takes a decent amount of time to help me spread the word. usdualsports.com, a bunch of different places that I have to kind of load that stuff. So it takes a while. And then the other thing I've been trying to promote a bit more this winter than in winters past is physical fitness, staying in shape, because I think if you want to ride a bike, you need to have training on how to properly ride the bike. Some people do. But I think for sure everybody should be eating right and doing some type of physical fitness routine, especially over the winter, the event off season, I call it. So I've been working out since I was in middle school for football. Worked out when I played football in the Air Force for a couple years. And then as I was coaching, training for triathlons, we're in the military for 20 years having to do physical training tests. Like it's just been a part of what I do. And I've basically have modified and tweaked my workouts as I've gotten older, but also as I've been involved in different disciplines of outdoor recreation. So now that I'm riding motorcycles more often, kind of tweaked my workouts to be more focused on balance, endurance, strength, core, that kind of stuff. So I play my own personal trainer. So I spend not every day, but I try to do at least 5 to 6 days a week during the off season, at least for at least 40 to 60 minutes doing stuff. In our FAQs and under our invigoration subpage, there's PDF downloads of Appalachian ADV workouts I spent a lot of time over the years just developing different things. And I had this one that's in this PDF kind of somewhat built, and I kind of tweaked it and cleaned it up a bit for public consumption. Caveat to that is don't do anything without talking to your physician first, or just at least ease yourself into it. Don't go crazy with it. But, so I got to take time to do those things too. And during this riding season, I'm on the bike a ton. So I definitely don't work out as much over the summer, but it's definitely good to kind of keep yourself in shape somewhat throughout the year. Well, that kind of covers like a lot of the indirect stuff that I do to keep Appalachian ADV going. The thing with Appalachian ADV and trying to do this as a full-time gig every year from the end of October to the end of December is kind of like a reset. So I did pretty well this past year as far as people's interest in coming out to events, and I pretty much sold out everything we did for the most part. Allegheny Jamboree, was a bit lower than I liked, and there was maybe one or two clinics where we didn't fill that fifth spot. But for the most part, it was a pretty good year. But this time, then October, November, December, as I'm starting to build and look towards the next riding season, it's a complete reset. So I did sell a bunch of passes and registrations the year previous, but then October hits and we reset all that stuff right back to zero. So it's kind of you get yourself back into an unknown. Will people not want to come back out again? Will the economy tank? Or will people's perception of the economy talk them out of purchasing an event pass or a clinic pass? So those are the things that each year, it's a bit of a stress factor on, okay, will this continue to work? So I open up the Fool's Ride usually in November. Since it's in April, I usually do it in November. And that is a good gauge for the year. In this past one, it's sold out within 3 weeks of me putting it out on the sporadic newsletter. So I do it in early November, and then a week after that, I put it out on social media. So 3 weeks after putting out the newsletter and 2 weeks after social media, it's sold out. So that gives me at least a bit of a gauge for the next year. And the other couple things was I booked a bunch of private clinics in 2025 for the 2026 season. And truthfully, like the end of the 25 clinic season, I sold a bit more private than in the past too. So those are all like good signs that the next year will be at least half decent. So that, those are all luckily good signs. But for that reset, each year is definitely like a bit of a stressful time. So that leads me into like these direct money makers, I'll call them, for lack of a better term. And that is just really when it comes down to is like the specific coordination around the events and the clinics. So I think for this year, as the event builder side, like 3 rallies. So the Fool's Ride, the Great Adventures Begin Here rally, and the new Wildcatters rally. So those are 3 rallies. That's April, that's May, and that's July. So Fool's Ride in April, Great Adventures in May, Wildcatters in July. And building a new event like Wildcatters has taken a lot of time and effort for me to kind of do that background stuff. And luckily, Mike and Tamber from Cross Adventuring have been the tip of the spear for that event, and really getting my interest in wanting to do the event in their backyard and connecting me with the locals, the people in the area, the business owners. There's their county tourism bureau, and with the basically like the outdoor tourism people in the PADCNR in general, by connecting me with those folks. A lot of background, time, and effort for that, but it's looking great. Like the event's coming together very well, getting a lot of interest. So, it's been a fun thing to do to build that new event for sure. So those 3, I got 2 tours. So the Allegheny Tour, PA Wilds Tour. So coordinating all the permit processes for those, event insurance process. I mentioned being an AMA charter, sanctioning a lot of these events. There's so much paperwork that goes into the charter, the sanction, the insurance, the permit, and different requirements from different entities along those things. And I have to basically, for each of these events, the clinics in general, the tours, the rallies, I build operations and safety plans for all of these. And the format is of my own design, but I've taken the different requirements from the sanction, insurance, and permit processes and try to put all of them into one document. So I have for I'll use the PA Wilds one maybe as an example, but they're all pretty much the same, I guess. Like they're anywhere from 8 to 12 pages long, and it is just all the information around the background of the my organization, the background of the event itself, where are we doing it at, what is the daily ride plan, who are the local resources when it comes to like the hospitals, the fire departments, emergency management coordinators for the counties. Trying to just think of some of this off the top of my head. It's a bunch of stuff. The kind of the general information I put in the riders meetings. I have an overall map that shows where the routes are for each day, or if it's a rally, like each of the routes, where are the hospitals and the fire departments in the local areas around those routes. I even go as far as the addresses, the distance from base camps for the hospitals, all that kind of stuff. I have recently added a lead and sweeps responsibility packet where we try to, most people that have helped me at these events that do these things, they kind of already know how I like to do things, but I wanted to put it on paper so it's easier for me to bring newer people in as well. That's part of that ops and safety plan. We have first aid type of information in there. It's kind of an all-encompassing document that I use to help me it actually helps me make the sanctioning, insurance, and permit process go smoother. So I'm doing 3 rallies, 2 tours, multiple riding clinics, like the clinics basically for 5 group level 1s, 2 group level 2s. So I've attached to the 304D tour to do a clinic and a little tour off of that using their routing in their area. Also doing that with the Hog Rock folks. And then I should say I've already scheduled 4 customized private clinics, and we have people reaching out, so there could potentially, hopefully, be more of those. So 3, 4, 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 18. So that's 18 events and clinics, 19 if you count the American Legion fundraiser. And I am kind of working on a couple other potential privates. My buddy Brad McFadden, who you guys know from mostly probably from the Great Ohio Adventure Trail, but also last Adventure Travel, the Ohio ADV Summit. Him and I have been talking about doing something together in 2026. So that's another one we might have to put some time and effort into. So right there, I'm almost at 20. So for me to do those 20 things from April through, we'll say October, this is the time of year that I have to work on those permits, the event insurance, the charter sanction. A lot of the requirements for those, you don't need to have them turned in until, say, 2 weeks before the thing, in general, depending on which organization you're talking about, plus or minus on that. So you can kind of do them and work on them throughout the year and get it. But since I'm doing so many of them, I have to do all of this stuff this time of year. But those are all directly related to me being able to run the event. So I have to do these things minimal to actually make all of these events and clinics work. So I spend umpteen hours a week this time of year for sure doing that. And if you think about what I mentioned earlier, in years past, I would be having to do these things during this event off season, but I'm still working 2 to 4 days a week in the hospital. So if you can imagine the amount of time and effort I would have to put into all of this stuff in the past, plus, family obligations, spending time with everybody in the family, it's a nonstop, action-packed way to live life as an Appalachian ADV sole proprietor, basically. The other thing, on top of that, like especially for the Fool's Ride, I can use it as an example. I pretty much know the Fool's Ride terrain like the back of my hand. I can go out there and just put loops together all day. So I do try to make a lot of the adventure style loops different each year. Dual sport, we'd also try to change those up a little bit. Sometimes it's just little tweaks here and there, but I still, for that particular event, I still go out there basically as much as I can from, October through April and pre-running and scouting and seeing what else is out there and seeing how I can maybe think about connecting these routes a little bit differently. Just seeing what's changed. And sometimes these dirt roads turn into chip seal or they pave it, or sometimes it goes from a chip seal to a really unmaintained road that's got potholes everywhere. So I try to give a quick glimpse of all that. I got a lot of the Inner Circle guys and girls that come out and help me pre-run some of that stuff and look around, or that, we've hooked up with the guys that run the lumberjack, and we, try to help each other out. So they will clue me in on some stuff that maybe we're not using right now. Like I've been trying to run some of the Fool's Ride stuff a bit more south of camp because generally speaking, most of the routing goes north. Got those guys, particularly Doug and Brad, trying to help me bring some routing to the south, which we've already updated the general farmlands loop to add a little bit more to the south. We're looking at potentially having a full loop that just runs south. So that takes coordinating with, the Inner Circle folks and scheduling time to go down there and actually doing that riding and building, new stuff, which, truthfully, that's one of the funnest parts of running Appalachian ADV is those scouting missions with the people that have been around a lot and have become like really good friends. Like that's like some of the funnest time to do. I love the events and it's a good time doing the events, but if you've been to the Fool's Ride, you know that I'm pretty much nonstop. I sit at the registration booth the whole weekend. I definitely talk to everybody at least once, but I try to talk to everybody as much as I can. It's super fun, but it's taxing because I don't talk that much usually. But doing the scouting missions ahead of time is super fun because we just get to go out there and goof around and challenge each other and dare each other to go climb that hill, and super fun times. So when it comes to specific events and building the structure of the event, I have to spend time just building the general event schedule. Say like breakfast is this time, riders meetings here, you can do this, that, the other thing. We got special guests coming in and they're going to do a thing this evening, or we're going to show a movie this evening, or, coordinating all of that and putting it in a schedule, and then sitting down with my base camp crew and like planning the meals. We usually have a big meal planning party where we sit around a table and we go over the books from the past of what did we do at Fool's Ride last year. Okay, those looked good. Those worked well. Maybe this year instead of this, we'll try that. And then actually going out and doing the shopping. So the other thing with these events is like I have to book the Fool's Ride's different. We got my buddy Jim, he just opens it up. The thing for the Fools is having to rent all the equipment and the stuff that I need to run the event there. But for like Wildcatters, the new rally, for the 2 tours, I have to actually book that lodging and spend the time to like coordinate with the DCNR or whoever I need to get some of this stuff booked. More things that take a lot of time. And specifically for the Wildcatters, since it's a new event, they have 250 acres or 225 acres there. So just going up there and getting a lay of the land, and of course it's fun. I'm on so far I've just used my son's TTR 110 to kind of go around base camp and check out the trails and see all the points of interest on the property and getting a feel for where I'm going to set things up, where we're going to try to put routing, where we're going to put the food truck, where we're going to put the group camping at. Like for that one, it's a little bit more time and effort, but for like the tours, we kind of use the same place each time. So just trying to get on those websites in time to book all the things. And then, if you've been to an event, you know that what I try to do is we put as much information as I can in that registration page as far as the general information. Those registration pages can get pretty lengthy because I do try to put as much information as I can on there. But if you've been to the Fool's Ride before, generally leading up to the event, starting a couple months out, I send maybe 4 to 5 event-specific newsletters out that are broken down into, okay, here's a bunch of stuff about the event riding, here's a bunch of stuff about dual sport riding, here's our schedule of events, and here are the people that are going to help us lead and sweep rides. Like, so I try to not open the floodgates, but try to put a bunch of information out there as much as possible, but in increments before the event. So I have to sit down and work those out. And luckily, now that we've been doing it for a while, I kind of have a template from the previous year. I can go in there and edit information. And so as I do this stuff over the years, it does get a bit smoother, luckily. I guess a couple other things to note is the private clinic lesson plans. Whenever I have somebody want to sign up for a private clinic, we send out a questionnaire and base the clinic on their needs, desires, and the things that they want to cover. It could be as simple as just do a level 1 or a level 2, but just with 1 or 2 people. Or it could be, okay, I want to do a little bit of that level 2 thing, but I want to work more on fast gravel or more on getting over obstacles or that, whatever. I have to spend the time going back and forth with those folks and trying to help them get the most out of the clinic. And then just in general for the group clinics, I'm doing these at 2 different locations. So level 1's at Street Track and Trail in Conneaut Lake, PA. Level twos are down at the Fool's Ride territory at Jim's Place near Richmond, Ohio. And then the privates can kind of be in either location, depending on what we're trying to get out of the clinic. But whenever I go to these clinics, I can't leave too much things there. I need some stuff that I need to take to both places. So you have a couple things I leave at both, but I have to bring stuff as well. So that means packing it up from the house, throwing it in the truck, driving up there, spending the time to pre-set all that stuff up, and then actually perform the clinic, tuck everybody up, put them through the ringer, picking up bikes, showcasing some of the drills, just trying to help people get through the days. Those are super fun. When it comes to just the event side too, just execution of those events. For the tours, basically have to coordinate with whoever's coming with me to sweep. Josh is coming as the medic, or if Tom's coming as a photographer, kind of coordinating all of those pieces to make sure that, we're capturing the fun, we're showing people a good time, and we're making it as safe as we can. And then for the rallies too, coordinated all the volunteers, the inner circle guys who's leading and sweeping. I'm sitting around, basically doing the daily ride signups, talking people through what their options are and what they're looking for and trying to put them in the right place, doing the door prizes, which is super fun. And then coordinating the guest speakers. I mentioned Josh doing his Biker Down Now What, and, others kind of out there. The fun part is executing those clinics and those events. That is definitely super fun to do. So I don't know. I feel like it's a pretty good summary. I'm sure I'm missing some stuff in there. There's a lot of things I need to do to actually make it work. And without the help of Jim and Reiko that host our Fool's Ride, Dick Lepley and Brian Lepley and Quentin and the guys at Street Track and Trail helping, with level 1 clinics and the Great Adventures rally there. And, all the guys in the inner circle, and girls, I should say, that help with leading and sweeping, that help me scout riding, that just are there to help me. And the people that have volunteered over the last year, at least, that we started that program at the bigger events and trying to help with leading and sweeping, and having those people, I wouldn't be able to do it without them too. So I know I've kind of somewhat jokingly been talking about, becoming a professional motorcyclist, job description and sole proprietor and all that stuff that I've kind of been talking about, but it takes a community to make this happen. I definitely lean on people to help me at certain points along the way. So, I can't thank all of those people enough, and especially my family, not only for supporting, they're coming out to some of these events, especially the Fool's Ride, and putting all their time and effort into helping me there, but just allowing me the ability to do that. I'm sure when we first started doing this, I think it was kind of like, you're crazy, I don't know that this is going to work. And I stepped away from a lab manager job to do this. Basically, I stayed in the hospital and I kind of went back to just being a grunt and working, testing the specimens. But I stepped away from a laboratory manager job to try to really make this thing work. And that started that in 2020. Now we're in 2026, and I'm just now starting to feel like it's somewhat working, knock on wood. It definitely built a community around it. We definitely see a lot of the same faces, and my family's become friendly with a lot of the folks that come out to this stuff, because we do have such a good, solid group of people that come to multiple things. And it's been great to build those relationships and continue to support the adventure dual sport community as a whole, and trying to get out there working with these nonprofits and the different states, trying to show them that there's a community and people want to utilize the terrain that is out there in these states, like Bat's Nest Road, that we just kind of had a big fight over, and luckily kind of went our way. But that was hopefully a sign to the state of Ohio and in the region that there's a community out there that wants to come out to these locations and use that. Maybe Bat's Nest Road is only 1.5-ish miles long, but it is one piece in thousands of miles of dirt and gravel and paved roads that connect these little towns to the outdoor community. And we weren't the only ones fighting that Bat's Nest. I've met a lot of gravel grinders and overlanders that are all asking for the same kind of stuff. So the more of us out there, the better for sure. But yeah, I can't thank enough the people that have supported me and Appalachian ADV, the collaborators and other companies that have come together, saw something in us and that wanted to support it and be a part of it. Because that's really the thing, is a lot of us think of the adventure dual sport community as the riders. Some of us maybe think of some of these event organizers in that community. But what I've been trying to think of lately is what other entities support this community, and riding gear, GPS stuff, luggage, all of these things, the collaborators that I've tried to partner with, they do provide something to the community as well, and trying to find a way to make that cheaper for people, or to a chance maybe to win a door prize from some of these folks. Like Griffin sends me a lot of stuff because we've had a really good collaboration going. You know, they were one of the first companies that actually reached out to me, and we've had a great rapport. They've listened to me and to the community about what they want out of their gear, and they've been consistently improving that. So they send me a bunch of stuff, you know, to use or to test or to try out. And then once I'm kind of done with it, like I just did it at the Adventure Ohio Summit, and I do it at Fool's Ride and other places. Like once I'm done with it, I'm just going to give it away because somebody can use it. So that, you know, just supporting the community has been a goal as I've felt more comfortable and established and have figured out what the hell I'm doing in general. What are the next things I need to think about as this thing keeps rolling? This whole thing is an experiment. You gathered from the very beginning, a couple of first things I said was, I'm not a businessman, never ran a company, I've never been in sales. So what I'm doing is trying to do it in a way that as a consumer, I would want somebody to try to sell me in a particular way. And that's the soft sale. I've said that at some other podcasts in the past. Like I want people to come out and have a good time. And if they do, great. If they don't, that's fine. If you come out once and maybe it wasn't your cup of tea, that's thanks for coming out, man. At least you tried it, and maybe I'll see you at somebody else's event somewhere along the line. But that's kind of the goal, is to not like be aggressive about it. Hopefully people find us. Hopefully a friend of theirs have come out and said, hey, you should come out to this. You know, that word of mouth has been my goal from the beginning. I've definitely done some advertising per se. I put stuff on social media obviously every day, just about. But as far as like advertising, I'd rather people find me than me force it down their throat, I guess. But, you know, you need a bit of both, I guess, when you're running a company. But I guess to close it out, man, like, thanks for listening if you stuck with me. The whole goal of this was just to kind of like, maybe not be super specific, but just kind of give an idea of what it takes to run Appalachian ADV. Maybe you were frustrated because I didn't want to jump on a phone call, or I didn't respond super quick, or, you know, just to kind of give a background of like the amount of time and effort it takes to actually make this thing work. And, you know, that can be a relative term too. It's definitely a thing that, you know, as many things as I do, I still have to keep my foot on the door at the hospital. My wife works full time, which is super helpful, but it's a labor of love. It's a thing that I want to do. And the hours and hours, days and days of prep and execution of all of these events and clinics and all of the other stuff that was mentioned for me to actually make Appalachian ADV a thing. But I can't think of anything else that I would want to do. This is where I want to be. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's just the general goal, is to just provide some info, some of the background of what it takes to do this. And I appreciate everybody's support, the people that come to the events too, for sure. That's kind of the final word, is none of it would happen if people didn't come out and spend a couple of their dollars and spend a bunch of their time out in the woods with me. None of this would happen if you guys weren't actually doing that, if you weren't responding and coming out and coming back and continually supporting me. It wouldn't happen. So thank you. I appreciate it.